I'd like to call the meeting to order for our 2019 annual report. Luke Bomer asked to be the secretary of the meeting. Meeting was called pursuant to written notice mailed on April 1st, 2020 to all stockholders of record of March 16th, 2020. How are we for a quorum?
I can confirm that we have a quorum. 95.55% of the total shares outstanding are represented by proxy or in person.
Has joined the conference.
I'd like to now discuss a little bit of my transition to my new position and the transition of Gary Fields into the CEO position. This has been a long time coming and has had a lot of effort put into it. We began the transition when we brought Gary on, although the rest of the people didn't know it. I was thinking he was being brought on when he started functioning in a directorship, and he progressed into the presidency, has done an outstanding job in that. And as he transitioned in and put his team in place, I stayed around as CEO to give advice and counsel so that it was as smooth as possible. I'm very proud to the way he's transitioned it. The company's back on stream with our normal profitability and growth in the first quarter of this year, similar to what we've had in the past. Therefore, I'm backing out of an executive position into just strictly an advisory position. I will stay active, but will not be responsible for as much effort in the company. So without any more to discuss about that, I'd like to ask Gary Fields, the new president and the CEO-elect, to provide a report.
Good morning. So 2019 was a challenging year from a lot of standpoints. We went into the year with tremendous backlog. We knew that we had production capabilities yet to be achieved. We were short of physical machines with Salvagnini machines that had worn out and failed on us. We also just needed additional machines. The board had granted us the purchase of 8 machines for 2019. However, at mid-year, we determined that that was not going to get us as far down the line as we needed. The 8 machines would only replace 2 failed machines and give us 6 accretive machines, which would give us production capacity only to meet 2019's needs, had no future expansion capability. So in June of 19, we asked for an additional 4 machines. That would give us accretive capacity. I'm very pleased to say that we've got the majority of the first 8 machines installed now and operational. The other 4 machines that we added will be arriving here August through October and will give us accretive capacity towards the end of the year. But with this capacity increase, we were able to achieve some very noteworthy accomplishments. Many of you have heard of the Stony Brook and the Westbury projects in New York. We were able to get our production capabilities ahead of schedule, approximately 3 weeks to as much as 30 days on certain lines, prior to receiving the request to build those emergency units. So we were able to fit in 80 units on what we call our Line 9 with no disruption to any commitment that we had made to any of our customers previous to those orders coming in. I don't know if you understand the magnitude of that and the contrast of what we've achieved after we got those machines and got them operational to prior. So our backlog was a big number going into 2019. If we would have had that production capability that we currently have a year prior, then we would have had revenue numbers even in excess of what we achieved. Now, we achieved growth in 2019, and we achieved a slight profit growth over anything that had been accomplished in the past. But it paled in comparison to what we knew we were capable of once we got these machines on board and we got them commissioned. This was proven yet this first quarter of 2020. So with that, we have all the financial details in the report for 2019. Like I said,
Has joined the conference.
the end result was that 2019 was a growth year and the profitability was restored. This was really accentuated in Q4. In September, we began to see clear achievement of these new production capabilities and the efficiencies that came with them. So that's the financial report. Now let's just talk about the general consensus of where we're at with AAON today. This coronavirus has been challenging for everyone to manage. We had one positive case in the offices in Longview. We were able to contact trace all the people that were around them and quarantine them, and we had no further impact. But it took a toll on the mentality of our personnel in that facility, and we went to as low as 42% attendance. We've restored that now to 80% attendance, and it's kind of steadied at 80%. We've talked to the approximately 20% of the members that are missing, and their challenges are that they have no child care available to them, so they may be unable to return to work until child care is available. And so with the programs that are in place for companies of the size of our Longview facility, this really runs until August 1st. And so I'm not certain that we'll see those employees come back before August 1st. We did have, prior to coronavirus, we had a hiring plan for Longview to expand. We're building a new facility there. And we had determined that we were working a lot of overtime with the existing staff, and that when we went to a 7-day work week rather than a 4-day work week for this particular functions of the company, that we would need to add 100 people. Well, with what's going on now, I think we'll add a few more than 100. And if those people come back in August, then we'll see how we handle it then. But we have the demand for at least 100 more people in Longview. This will help us become more efficient in Longview because we've been working at least 20 to 25% of the time in overtime, so we'll reduce that overtime. In the Oklahoma facility, we had our first positive case. We were notified that this happened on May 7th, but the person had quarantined themselves on May 2nd. So we had until today, May 12th, for any other people that were contact traced to quarantine themselves.
Gary, we were informed of it yesterday.
We were informed yesterday. The person made note of it on May 7th, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so we were only informed yesterday. But these people that had worked with them, they had a quarantine requirement until May 12th, which is today, and they're not scheduled to be back in the plant until tomorrow or Thursday because of our shift that they were on. They were on crew 3, correct? Yeah. So we've managed this thing very aggressively. For those of you that are walking around the building, you'll see that there are janitorial people walking around wiping handles down. We have the social distancing in this room we're in right now. You can see that every Only 1 out of every 3 chairs is available to sit in. The rest of them have ribbons. You'll see hand cleaner around. So we've followed the guidelines, and I would say that we have done a very good job. To have 2,000 employees here in Oklahoma and have our first case this late in the stage tells me that we've done a very good job of working with our employees to manage this and manage the expectations. So let's talk about how that's impacted or not impacted production. Q1 of 2020 was a record in revenue, it was a record in profits, it was a record in efficiency. Basically, every financial metric that you look at, it was a record. We had $137 million of revenue in Q1. That was compared to $113 million Q1 of 19. That's a 20.8% increase. The profit, gross profit, was nearly $43 million compared to $25 million. That's a 68% increase. Earnings per diluted share was 41 cents as compared to 17 cents same quarter last year, 141% increase. Coronavirus began to affect our operations to some degree in March. So we finished out the quarter with these record numbers with some slight disruption. We had Longview in March was down about $1.5 million in revenue versus what it had done in January and February. So there was that slight impact there. The impact in Tulsa was insignificant. Supply chain, we've managed that very aggressively, and we've had some minor, I call them dust-ups. It means that we have to change to a different but similar part in some instances. It means that we have to work with that supplier to get from those supplies from a different factory, for instance. But it's not caused us to, we have not failed to ship any units because of supply chain. And that continues to be the case, that we have adequate supplies of everything needed to maintain our shipments. Now, today, Longview's population is, like I said, it's about 80%, and Tulsa is at 91 or 92%. So I looked at most recent production numbers, and we have nearly restored back to our peak numbers that we had established earlier in Q1. So that's my report on how things are going in regards to financial performance and actual company performance. Are there any questions? All right, with no questions, Mr. Chairman, bullet point number 8.
I'd like to entertain a motion to ratify the acts and actions of the Board of Directors and the officers of the corporation during the year of 2019. May I have such a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to introduce representatives of Grant Thornton.
Telephone.
They're on the speakerphone.
They're on the speakerphone. If you have any questions, they are available to answer your questions. No questions? We'll move on. Are there any shareholders present who have not yet voted? I believe so. I'll call on the chairman. We'll then call upon the secretary to announce that Carol Lawhorn and Steve LeClaire have each been elected for 3-year terms expiring in 2023 annual meeting of stockholders. The amendment to the company's 2016 long-term incentive plan to increase the number of shares eligible for issuance thereunder has been approved. The Say on Pay advisory resolution on the compensation of our named executive officers has been approved. The appointment of Grant Thornton as the company's independent registered public accounting firm for 2020 has been ratified. Any further business? I entertain a motion for adjourning the meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moved and seconded, passed, meeting adjourned. Thank you for attending our meeting. I would add one thing. In last weekend's Wall Street Journal and the U.S. News, they discussed COVID-19 as a cause of death in our national governmental agency that keeps track of deaths. It came in as follows. Heart issues, 230,000 people. Cancer, 200,000 people. COVID-19, 75,000 people out of a total of 1 million people. Puts it in a little better perspective of what's really taking place. We've got a lot of attention being given to it, but it's still 3 times less than heart issues. Thank you. We look forward to a very good year in 2020. Thank you.